Hey, what's going on? North-South Connection. It's Mike Rossi. I am here to be the host of NoSo Countdown number 3, as we are looking at the Royal Rumble resumes of Randy Orton, who we have at the number 3 spot. I'm joined here by Ryan Everett. How you doing today, Ryan?
Good. Yep. Talking about Rumble, getting ready for it. A few days away now.
And we get the Viper. So, Ryan, you could catch on With This Ring over on the Place to Be pod. And he's also one of my counterparts on ChroNoSo when we get those done once or twice a month. But Randy Orton. So, when you think of Randy Orton, Ryan, in the Royal Rumble, what's your first thought?
Always a threat, I think. Even there, we'll go through his runs, different, periods in his career, but his first one is 2004, and that was actually when I rewatched this weekend. And I'm not just saying this because of the other guy he's in there with, but the first half hour, I think he's the most impressive guy in it. He is just, everyone's coming in and they're going after Benoit, but they're also going after Orton, and his story for that one is awesome. And with a lot of guys on this countdown, like just Shawn Michaels, his first couple aren't impressive. He's the Rockers, and then even Triple H, his first year is Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He does go about 40 minutes, but I think he eliminates like 2 guys maybe, and it's very unimpressive. He doesn't have really any down years, or at least years where, like in 2004 even, like he wasn't going to win, but it wouldn't have been ridiculous for him to make the Final Four even that year. And as we'll go, he has quite the resume of 2 wins, which already puts him in, pretty rare air. 8 Final Fours, though. That's the thing that stuck out to me.
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about 04, and then after that, he wasn't in the 05. But then 06, 07, 09, 11, and 12, that's 5 straight years he's in it. Well, not consecutive years, but 5 of his appearances, all Final Fours.
Yeah.
Well, one, obviously, he won in the middle there, too. But what I really noticed about Orton, rewatching some of the Rumbles, is the RKO. Like, that's a move that plays into a Rumble so well.
Yeah.
There's so many finishing moves that there isn't enough space for, or they get somebody in the air and it makes more sense to just throw them out, like the F5 or whatever.
Yeah.
But Orton, like, he can just hit that thing at any point, and it's a good way for him to turn on his friends. Obviously sneak up on his enemies. It's kind of Randy Orton. When I think of him, as every Rumble that he's in, he's been impactful, even if he wasn't, the main story. He was pushing some sort of narrative every time. And then especially when you look into, he entered at 30. He's somebody that is kind of synonymous with entering late. An entrance at 30. 2011, he was 39. Then 28, 26, 23. He's just like a 20s guy. But then in 2021, he came in at number 2 and did 58 minutes. And that was probably his worst overall performance, if you think about it.
Yeah, and that one, I was, doing a little research, and I saw Orton, and I saw he had 58 minutes in the 2021 Rumble, the Thunderdome Rumble, and I was like dreading it. But then I watched it. He's actually in it for probably like 5 minutes. He gets jumped right away. Him and Edge fight to the back or something.
Yeah, laying out in the back.
Yeah, so at least, I don't know. I can't watch that Thunderdome crap. I don't know how you are.
It's tough. The was trying to watch. Was a little bit better.
Yeah, I think so. Like, I remember a couple months ago, a month ago, I was watching the TLC Reigns versus Owens, and just the crowd, like the sound levels with the crowd and stuff. That stuff's, it's just horrible. I mean,
yeah, and Orton was kind of like Mr. Thunderdome when you think about it. He was kind of the top of the card for that stretch between the Edge feud that was mostly in the PC over to then feuding with McIntyre and all sorts of gimmick matches when they were in the Thunderdome. So Orton, overall stat wise, 2 wins, 8 Final Fours, which you already mentioned. 25 total eliminations in his 13 Rumbles. Now, we're going to say that his peak year was 09 when he did 48 minutes and 1 out of the 8 spot. And then we will talk about, his worst year being 2021, which we kind of just addressed because he was in it too, and he did 58 minutes, but he barely worked the thing.
Right.
Now, as far as like the peak versus the worst in this scenario, 09 versus 2021, what holds up more? The peak, right? Because that worst appearance was really I mean, it was a one-off bad, you know?
Yeah, I think the peak definitely, especially the whole story throughout the match with Legacy, and like he only has 3 eliminations, so it's not like he's dominant, but the group together, like anytime one of them is like at chance of getting eliminated, the other two will swarm over there, especially if it's to save Orton. Like, and they have the awesome moment where I think Orton hits the RKO on Goldust, and then he like throws him at Cody and tells Cody to eliminate him, just like showing how he is the leader of this group. And towards the end, they kind of like sacrifice themselves just to let Orton win, and they like let Triple H eliminate them, DiBiase and Rhodes, so Orton can sneak up, throw him out. And he is there's no question going into that show and definitely exiting it. He is the top heel in the company.
Yeah. That entire go home of in 09 when he punted McMahon.
Yeah.
You know, that made this entire Rumble show really about Randy Orton.
Yeah, that's real. I mean, they talk about it throughout.
Yeah, so if he didn't win that one, I mean, that was kind of tailor-made for him. And that was obviously his most impactful show, coming in at 8 and going 48 and winning. And really not even really feeling threatened throughout it either, because he had the legacy on his backside the whole time, you know?
Right. Everyone comes in, goes after him, and he just takes it all and just is able to outlast everyone.
Yeah, which is kind of played off again in the next one he wins in 2017.
Yeah.
Because he was in the Wyatt family. But it was kind of an interesting dynamic there because he had like they had the blow off with Luke Harper on the God Rest His Soul. Both of them really.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But they had the blow off with him, and he got like Sister Abigail by Bray on the go home. And then he comes out and Bray and Orton are already in the ring. And then Luke Harper looks like he's in a line with them, and then he ends up jumping Bray again. And then he gets Bray in the Sister Abigail, and then Orton interrupts that with that kind of out of nowhere RKO. Eliminates Luke Harper there, and then him and Bray kind of dominated it to the finish as well. That 2017 Rumble is one that it's an impressive one to win because it was so star-studded.
I think because I was there, I remember like looking at the betting sites like throughout the day, and like all of a sudden, like 3 hours before the show, he like shot up. Because like I remember like people were thinking, oh, Finn Balor's going to be back, or Samoa Joe might show up, Undertaker, Goldberg.
Yeah. And I think everybody thought Goldberg was going to win that to maybe get towards like a Goldberg Brock, and then maybe Brock would have beat Owens the next month like Goldberg did. Because that was clearly the story, and that one was obviously building towards Mania, which, you know, funny enough, was Brock versus Goldberg, Undertaker versus Reigns, who came in second to this to Orton, but also Orton versus Bray. I mean, they were still in unison at this point, but it got to the point that, you know, Orton won this, Bray won the title the next month at Elimination Chamber, and then they went forward with a pretty lame WrestleMania match, but
including Randy Orton burning down the Wyatt family,
and then hitting his pose as it burnt to pieces. So
as all arsonists do.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so overall, Orton's 3. And you know, as we start we're not going to spoil who's 2 and 1 because that's still coming up here, but how do you think the 3 is an appropriate ranking for Randy Orton here?
At first, I was like, ooh, that seems high. But really looking at the guys that came before him, the guys that come after him, and just his numbers, like, it's hard to argue with. And kind of like you were saying, he's always impactful. Even if he might not be the hottest guy going into the Rumble, if he comes in, and like you were saying also, he usually comes in late, so there's some guys in there. He comes in and hits 3 RKOs. He's over. I mean, that move is one of the most over moves ever. It's definitely, to this day, gets a huge pop whenever it's even teased. And yeah, like if he's not the most pushed guy going into a Rumble, he comes in, hits a couple RKOs, he's back to being, the crowd's into him, and it's like, oh, this guy could win. It's not crazy for him to win and go to the WrestleMania, especially in the era of 2 title matches. You could definitely see him always being a threat.
Yeah, he's always believable. I mean, even to the point that he's coming back here and they have to put him in a 4-way because they didn't want him to get pinned. He's always hot. He always moves merch, and he's somebody that in any Rumble you hear that theme song and people are getting on their feet. So definitely a guy that has kind of become a little synonymous with the Rumble. Although when you look at his like overall stats, he was never really an Iron Man. Right. Obviously, the year that he really wasn't,
Right.
But it proves that sometimes just being impactful and having that name and that upper echelon like character that he's always had kind of holds more weight than that Iron Man gimmick does.
Yeah. And sometimes, I mean, there's, I know people have talked about different Iron Men and here recently, Aaron had his countdown stuff. Sometimes Iron Men are just in there for a long time and don't do much. Sometimes it's more important to have an impactful 13, 15 minutes than a guy who's in there for 45 minutes just hugging the bottom rope.
Yeah, like Jericho. Like I just rewatched the 17 one. He was in Jericho was in the thing for like an hour, and half the time he was laying ringside.
He's on the floor and stuff.
Yeah, and he's probably got the most time in a Rumble, but you don't really remember him as a Rumble guy,
Right.
So Randy Orton number 3, and we don't expect him in this year's Rumble because he's in the title match, and who knows though, the title match on early.
They have done a couple times where he's challenged for the belt and then comes out in the Rumble itself. So
yeah,
I don't know if they're planning on that, but if the day of the Rumble they're doing it and they realize we only have 28 guys, they could definitely throw Orton in there and throw some more intrigue in at the end.
Yeah, have him get eliminated by whoever his Mania opponent is or something. But
right.
Yeah. All right, cool. So Ryan, we got through Orton at number 3. You have anything to plug?
Just with this ring with my wife Cindy, and then like you said, I'm on ChroNoSo. We got some good episodes coming up as we're heading into WrestleMania 5, so that should be fun.
Yeah. ChroNoSo is where you can find me too, as well as all the monthly pay-per-view previews with Ryan Gray. And I'm the college basketball guy, so you guys will be hearing from me again in about 8 or 9 weeks when the bracket's out. So
the year before you know it.
Absolutely. So we will catch up with you later and check out 2 and number 1 coming right around the corner. Enjoy the Rumble, guys. Later.